Those of us that saw him, there can be little doubt that he could have played at the very highest level.
I can remember my parents still saying to me in the morning, "Don't marry him," pleading.
I think he would have gone all the way to the top. He would have played for England without a doubt. He would have played up front or just behind the front two these days. He had the skill, he had the pace, he had the build. He just had the talent, he had it all.
There was a sad side to Robin, I'm sure, because when you saw him, he was always happy and gay, and he was a happy lad. Always happy. He liked his drink, he liked his drugs. We know that.
Everything about him, he'd never wear the right kit, he'd never bring his kit, he'd always never have a towel, so there was no discipline there at all. What you had was just an unbelievable character with unbelievable ability. Oh, Robin was a massive influence on any game he played. He's one of those players, and you hear it often said, but rarely is it true, that you'd pay your entrance fee just to see Robin. We would be playing in the Isthmian League then, which was one of the highest leagues, if not the highest league in the non-league in them days. As for on the pitch, well, he was such a wonderful talent, and he stood out. He was different looking to everyone. We all had long hair, but whereas a lot of us would be more a sort of, I don't know, Rod Stewart-y type thing, or kidded ourselves with was. He was definitely a Mick Jagger type, and he incredibly bandy legs and looked different to everybody. I certainly was different. Had such confidence, such charisma, such character, and such ability. He'd run on a pitch within 5 minutes. He would be battering the centre half, battering the goalkeeper. He'd be in 2 or 3 rucks with a ref, and I hadn't even touched the ball.
It was this hard-hitting style of play that got him noticed when Hayes met 4th Division Reading FC in the second round of the FA Cup.
I first saw him play for Hayes against Reading in the FA Cup, and Hayes were an incredibly spirited team that ran and kicked us off the park basically over 2 games.
And Reading drew at home 0-0 against Hayes, and I was quite impressed by this sort of lanky, different figure playing up front for Hayes. And I went to the replay, which Reading won 1-0 at Hayes Ground, and the memory from that game was of a Reading goalkeeper, a little lad called Steve Death, catching a shot, and then this brute of a centre forward, Robert Friday, running through after the ball and kicking Steve Death on the thigh as hard as he possibly could.
All I can remember was this long-haired, big, ugly, gruesome chap trying to put him in the back of the net all the game, and it's horrible to watch, really. Our great little goalkeeper who was so popular was trying to catch the ball and being bundled over, and any sort of 60-40 ball, 60 to the goalkeeper, 40 to the, this chap went in, and I hated him, to be honest.
Robin had such a nasty streak, as in physical strength and physical prowess, that if a centre half, and in them days, trust me, centre halves really did knock you about. I didn't knock Robin about too long, because Robin, whereas in them days the referee used to allow the centre half to batter you at least 3 or 4 times, Robin had already punched the guy before he'd got the first whack in. So unlike any other player I've played with, unlike any other player I've managed or seen, a real special one-off.
Friday impressed Royals manager Charlie Hurley so much that on the 24th of January 1974 he signed a professional contract with the Elm Park club. Reading supporters and players alike didn't know what to make of their new striker.
He came onto the pitch, he had long hair, his shirt was outside his shorts, his socks were down within about 20 minutes. The first impression of him was, what a mess.
Well, I think at the time he had these cowboy boots that noticed. I don't know whether that was then that he had the big bright red ones that came on, and a suit that was not quite in with the normal football style of things, I don't think, but it's certainly different, and he always had this long scarf and things like this, so it was certainly oh right, yeah, what have we got here really?
he first came to Reading for a training session with the established professional players. That took place at the Adwest Sports Ground up in Sonning, and Robin just turned up in his old gear and was given a set of football kit to play. And they were playing a six-a-side game as a warm-up to this training session, and Robin was launched straight into this six-a-side game, and within the first 10 minutes he crippled 3 of the Reading established professional players. He just went round whacking everybody as hard as he possibly could, and after 10 minutes Charlie Hurley had to call a halt to the receiver and say, look Robin, look, just calm down, steady on, we need some of these players for Saturday, just take it a bit more easy, will you? We realise you've got a little bit of skill, we don't need to see you putting the boot in as well.
Friday was soon scoring goals for his new club and very quickly became a fan's favourite.
He was massively influential. I think he was influential not just to the team but to the fans as well, because they would give him the ball and he would go and do something with it, something fantastic. When the fans saw that, they responded to Robin and that actually picked the team up. So I think it actually affected both the team and the fans as well, and it started up a circle, if you like. All good stuff.
He was worth the admission money alone, really. Just absolutely fantastic to watch, and I've never seen anybody like him before or since, really.
Saw his debut away at Northampton, and he was just tremendous in terms of being able to dribble the ball, cross the ball, shoot, and he'd added quite a lot of attacking momentum to a team that was just hopeless at scoring goals at that time.
I remember him playing against Doncaster Rovers, one of his first home game for Reading, and the Doncaster Rovers goalkeeper was a guy called John Turner, who later joined Reading as understudy to Steve Death. And in the first half, on a Sunday afternoon, Robin got the ball some way out of goal, and he did something I'd never seen a professional player do before, at least not in real life. He hit the ball with the inside of his right foot at an angle from the goal, and bent the ball in what nowadays would be called a banana shot, and bent it round the outside of the goalkeeper, who dived in vain to try and reach the ball, and the ball curled round just inside the goalkeeper's left-hand post. And I think then, in his first home game, we realised what a really talented player the club had signed.
As well as the goals he scored, there was a particular technique of Friday's that still sticks in the memories of many Reading supporters.
Well, the thing that stuck out to me was, I don't know if it's peculiar, but I've certainly never seen any other player tackle in this way.
He would slide in from the side, preferably, I think, from the left, with his right leg outstretched.
And he'd hook the ball back. And it wasn't a sliding tackle. I don't recall him actually being on the ground.
And he did it in such a way that he twisted and rose up again. So the player went that way without the ball, and Robin Friday went that way with the ball.
I don't know how he did it or what happened. I'd love to see it on television and see it in slow motion.
Best is the only other person I've seen do it. Brilliant.
As well as being noted for his footballing skills, he was also gaining a reputation for his off-the-pitch antics.
Well, we went to from the boar's head. I think I got asked to leave the boar's head, actually. Went down to the moderation. Got chucked out of moderation, so went to the next pub, which was the Crown on Caversham Bridge. And Robin just, of course, had a gay barman. I think that's what started off. And Robin started giving him a terrible stick. And next thing we knew, he was jumping from table to table, and taking his trousers down, all this sort of stuff, in front of all the regulars. I mean, the place was packed, wasn't just us in there. And he caused a bloody riot.
One day when we were waiting for the, I think we were we sat on the coach waiting for him to turn up, and all you see was this distant, whatever he was, coming towards us. Again, I think was with his bright red cowboy boots on, with a almost fluorescent blue velvet suit. And I can't remember the colour of the shirt, but that was probably orange or something like that. And he had this multicoloured long scarf, and it was flowing. And I'm not so sure he'd actually come from home. I think it was from the night before that he was just about to get onto the coach.
I used to know a guy called Roger Forrester, who managed Eric Clapton, and he was a Queen's Park Rangers fanatic. And one day Reading were playing at home, but Roger said, "Do you want to cut the QPR?" He said, "Because I got 2 season tickets." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Right." So he said, "Well," he said, "Get down Reading Station." So I picked her up from there. So I was down the Reading Station, and he's picked me up in this Rolls Royce, right? So I'm just getting to this Rolls Royce, and I've heard this voice shout out, "What are you doing getting to that fucking roller?" So I've turned around, and it was Robin, right? So I said, "I'm just going to QPR." And he just gave out a load of abuse and ran across the road and jumped on the bus. And this Rolls Royce, he said, "Who the fucking hell was that?" I said, "You won't believe this." I said, "That was Reading centre forward." Then he just shook his head and just drove away. We wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, we were conscious that Robin was up to lots of stuff, but it never seemed to affect his performance in the sense that it made him a worse player than any of the others around him. Just added to the legend, so we quite enjoyed that.
Perhaps the most iconic moment of Robin Friday's career happened in a home match against Rochdale in the 74-75 season.
Towards the end of the match, the scores were 1-1, and obviously the players were thinking about their bonus from the game. A lot of the spectators had drifted away by then. It was a really cold night under the floodlights. And then suddenly, with a minute to go, Robin latched onto a through ball, went past the defender, went past the goalkeeper, planted the ball in the net, and his momentum carried him off the pitch to behind the goal, where there was a rather somnolent policeman watching the game, and in a sort of purely charismatic gesture, Robin ran up to the policeman, lifted his helmet, kissed him full on the lips, put his arms round him, and I'm pleased to say the policeman took it all in good part, and he celebrated as well.
You know, and the policeman, I think, which was great as well, which I'm not so sure whether they'd be still doing that today, played along with it. And I think that's where everybody loved it and remembers it so much, because he played along with it as well.
Everyone just fell apart. You just didn't expect it. And again, it's just one of those magic Robin Friday moments. You're never going to forget it. And it sums the guy up. He just did something so mad, but so spontaneous, and it made everyone feel good.
In the 75-76 season, Reading were pushing for promotion from the 4th Division, and in March of that year faced a crucial game against Tranmere Rovers. The Royals turned on the style to win 5-0, and Friday provided a moment of genius that would go down in Reading folklore.
If you ever talk about Robin Friday, anybody that ever talks about him and was at that game, and it was the goal, because it was sensational.
Robin got the ball maybe 10, 15 yards inside left position, outside the box.
Took the ball from midfield, controlled it, down on the knee, flipped it up, and just shot it over his shoulder. He just swung at it and volleyed it over his shoulder. And the ball was on its way by the time he'd swung round.
I remember it just going very cleverly just over the keeper and inside the bar and the post.
When the ball went in the net, there was this silence. It has been said that Clive Thomas, the referee, put his hands over his head. I don't know about that, because we were just... And then the place just went completely mental. Couldn't believe what he'd seen.
And he just turned around, and that was Robin. Robin would just go like that, and he would just like that. That was Robin. And Clive Thomas, as you very well know, did the bit as he put his hands on his head and went, he could not believe the goal.
It was more the significance of the goal, that it put us 3-0 up in a vital promotion game, and it meant that we were really going to go up, and it'd be the first time in 50 years that Reading had got promoted. So I think the goal's got that significance as well to it, which people nowadays have forgotten a little bit about.
Reading secured that much-awaited promotion when a goal from Friday helped the team snatch a 2-2 draw at Cambridge United. Charlie Hurley's side returned to Elm Park as legends. During the summer of 1976, Robin Friday would marry for a second time, this time to Lisa Diemel.
I can remember my parents still saying to me in the morning, "Don't marry him," pleading. And Charlie Hurley had made time to call my mother and say, "Don't let your daughter marry him, whatever. But we all just took no notice of that. And my sister was the bridesmaid, and being as it was the 70s, and it was at that point in our lives we were all messing about with various different substances.
There must have been about 100 people on the steps of the church down here waiting for him to turn up. And when he turned up, it was as I described it, you know, snakeskin boots, velvet suit, tiger skin shirt, long hair. He looked like a pop star. That's what he looked like. And he rolled a joint on the steps before Lisa turned up. Most of the congregation was stoned. I think the vicar might have had a few as well, because he was laughing all the way through it.
And I can remember my sister and I, we had some pills, and we had about 5 of these pills left, speed, and it was before the wedding, and we were fighting over who was going to have them, and I said I'd have 3, she could have 2, she was the bridesmaid. So by the time we actually got to the church, none of us were, you know, we were still normal, but it was all just through a bit of a haze, really. And I can remember that when being in there, and when the vicar was asking me to say I do and things, by then these pills had worked and I couldn't speak. I was just standing there going, you know, on another planet. But and Robin was completely wrecked on something or other, so it was really insane. And I remember when we came out of the church, because it was a Saturday and he was supposed to play, but he'd somehow managed to get the match off, I don't know how, or should have played and didn't. And when we came out of the church, all the supporters from Elm Park were there, everywhere, all over the pavement, thousands of faces, and the buses had stopped and the cars had all stopped, and it was, you know, we went in and there was no one on the street, came out and it was unbelievable.
At the reception, which was in St John's Road in Reading, I think most of the congregation were either voluntary or involuntary smashed, stoned, you know.
Somebody had spiked the punch with something or other, and all my aged aunts were like hallucinating, and it was mad. It was the wildest thing ever. It was just completely mad.
It was just a large from start to finish. As I say, I've been to a few weddings in my time, but I've never been to one like that before or since.
Far from settling down, Friday's behaviour became more and more unpredictable, and he started to grow disillusioned with the club.